or?
All right, it's good to see everybody. Flew about 2,000 miles to do the same thing we do in the VMAX, so fire away.
Mikey, a couple days interviews now with guys. What's that process been like for you being part of that this year?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. We're catching up from the coach's perspective. So John and the guys have done a great job of setting it up where our position coaches can kind of drive the interview. And it's funny, each interview kind of takes up a form of itself. And you think 20 minutes probably isn't an optimum time for someone to get to know a player as well as you want. But it's funny how much those personalities come out in that time. So it's been a lot of fun.
Does your role feel different now that you're a head coach as opposed to when you were in those before when you were an assistant? Or?
Well, I did it as a position coach. I did it as a coordinator. Now being the head coach, taking a little more of a back seat, just more of an observation role. But just different perspective. And then obviously your role in terms of when you're going to make decisions. I carry a little more weight now than I did in years past.
When you're here, Mike, what are you specifically targeting on players? What traits, what aspects you can only really find here?
I'm trying to get caught up. So just kind of any and everything you're trying to take in is my perspective. So all these little data points that you collect along the way, no one really knows which data point means what, or there's all these different variables in play. But to me, it's, can we collect the most data we can possibly get, most observations, most information, and use that to make the best decision we can.
Last year you were working on trying to get everything going with the staff back in Seattle, and then this time around you got all these new staff members that bring a lot of experience to the table and have been involved in this process. How much is that helping with easing this transition here, this first time as a head coach that you involved with this? You have these guys that have been in this process before.
Well, you're always going to lean on your staff's experience. So wherever that's coming from, that's one of the reasons why you hired those people, why you brought them onto your team. So you're going to lean on those guys, from things that they've learned and their knowledge. So we have a unique perspective now for our new offensive staff. It's great to have a staff in place this time around, where last year I think we were finalizing it about this time. So look, I just really believe in the men that we brought into our coaching staff, their leadership ability, coaching ability. It's going to be a fun group to work with. I think our players are going to love playing for them.
What do you like? I've talked to you since you kind of rounded out that group a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
What do you like about just kind of all the guys that Clint's worked with and what they'll be able to do together?
Well, sure. I thought it was important for Clint to be able to work with guys that he has a prior relationship with. Just having alignment on each side of the ball. Having done it a couple times where you haven't had those relationships, I understand that sometimes it's difficult. And with this particular scheme, there's a lot of nuances and that kind of take the test of time to iron out all the details. So it's not like we have to go back through steps 1 through whatever to get up and running. So I thought that was really important. But these guys are some of the best in the business too. So to be able to add great coaches to your staff, great experiences, different types of skill sets and thoughts and backgrounds, I thought was important as well. So I felt like it was a great mix.
You mentioned how Clint has done before as an OC. What is kind of your philosophy on guys that have done it before and people who have kind of gone through it first time?
Well, I think I've shown you have to have an open mind. With hiring Ryan last year and what we were trying to achieve there to now, I think based on the circumstances that we're in and what we felt like the team needed and where we wanted to go, Clint's experience was important, especially his track record with the quarterback and marrying everything going together, and the identity of the football that he wants to play was aligned with it. I felt like where our team needed to go. So that was a driving force behind hiring Clint.
Is it a wealth of idea generation from the past?
Say that again?
Is it more about like a wealth of idea generation in the past that you can lean on?
Yeah, I think that understanding what the system is and the steps you need to take in order to get the base fundamentals down, get the installs in. And Clinton alluded to this in his press conference, and I see it the same way as him. You have to get really good at the basics and the fundamentals, the bells and whistles, the creativity. That'll come. People aren't just inventing new plays. It's all plays off of plays, and it's all systematic. So that's how you get creative.
Mike, we've seen a lot of teams the last couple of years using high draft capital on interior pass rushers, maybe as opposed to traditionally being the edge rusher guy who's going to be that first round pick. Why do you think there's been maybe a shift in that, in finding a 3 technique earlier in the draft?
Yeah, it's a great observation. Frankly, I don't know what the right answer is. you do want guys that are going to affect the quarterback, and interior rushers do get there quicker than the edge guys on average, I would imagine. It is harder to double team those guys with chips and things like that. You have to be more creative. And then it's going to be systematically like different for what you're trying to achieve. Like our three techniques are going to look a little bit different than a traditional 4-3 team. The skill sets we're looking at up front, I think, are unique to our system, which is cool. And it'd be an interesting trend to follow, moving forward.
It seems like, looking at the Super Bowl thing, the Chiefs did it, the Eagles have done it. Do you feel like that's a blueprint? I know you guys did it with Byron Murphy last year and picking him up.
Well, I think you're looking at it through the lens of, hey, this is a great player that's really tough, he's really physical, and he can affect the quarterback. I think it really is that simple, and then you piece them together as you build your lines out, and you got to be able to win at the line of scrimmage. That became, obviously, if you can't see that from watching the playoffs this year, then I don't know what game you're watching. But so obviously we have to be able to do that in order if we want to win a championship.
How similar do you think Michigan's defense was under Wink this year compared to your defense when you were there?
I'm not sure. I'm sure some of the vocabulary changed. I didn't have a chance to really watch those guys yet. Watched a couple a couple games on TV, but I had more chance to watch what Jesse was doing when I was coordinating a little more time in my hands on Saturdays. But
what do you think is about that scheme that has been so successful there since you've been there?
Well, it starts with the players, it starts with the head coach, and then I think they just have such a great culture there, man. Just the kids at Michigan were just such a joy to coach every day. The brotherhood that they've created, that started with Jim and now Sharon, it's a special place, and the history behind it, speaks for itself. All the alumni, it's an awesome town. It's a great place to coach football, and just proud that they've continued on the tradition that we created a few years ago. Yeah, Zach and I are really close. I think the world of Zach. Got a ton of respect for him. He's a heck of a football coach. But we stay in touch because we're buds, and obviously we're going to catch up with each other on how things are going. But I'm proud of Zach. I thought those guys played great football this year, and they had a chance to win it all in the end, and I'm sure he's going to be diving in like we are right now, trying to get better.
What did you see was the unique impact he left on the defense? Because I know he's built off of yours, but what did you
Yeah, I think it's really cool that you see Zach's personality with their defense, and that's a tribute to his leadership and the guys and the atmosphere that John built, in Baltimore and everything. All the things that go into it there. Is really neat, and it shows you that no matter who's leading the defense, it's still Baltimore's defense, but they're able to evolve and kind of move and shake with who's calling the plays.
Maybe talking about the reverse flow there. Ball's obviously a huge influence for you.
Offensively quite a bit.
In this last year, what's the toughest piece that you might be trying to implement scheme-wise or feature-wise for Baltimore? It's hardest to replicate.
Plenty of room to grow.
Well, we want to become our own team. There's principles that we took from Baltimore and the things that I believe in that aren't just specifically unique to Baltimore. I think those kind of are tried and true principles across team sports, especially football. But I think we were looking at it through the lens of, hey, how can we build off of what's already here, but also make it our own? It's probably the biggest challenge. That comes with making some moves and decisions where, you might feel like you're moving away from things, but really we're trying to build off of what's been in Seattle and our brand of football there, and also, hey, what's our personality, the things that we're gonna, hang our hat on at the end of the day. So it was a fun process. The guys did a great job. Man, going to work every day with the guys in our building is just it's a blessing. It's a ton of fun. And how many days we got till they come back? So we're counting those days down.
You talk about smart, tough guys that love ball as being Seahawks. What are things you can learn? How do you learn about that when you're interviewing them here?
I love you can turn the tape on, and in 5 minutes, it's pretty obvious what this guy's about. If you're to go through the process, it's not like you have to be some football expert to understand the guy's passion for the game. Sometimes, there's a scale to it. But man, do I really respect those guys that understand all the calls and what they thought about in that time, and what the player across from him, what the scouting report was on that guy, and the little coaching points here or there that give them edges. Like, you hear some of those things, and you can't help but get fired up through that process. But there's so many data points. Our scouts are on it. They're with these guys for years. They got them dialed personality-wise. So I think when you kind of combine all those things as you go through the process, you have a pretty good feel for the guy.
You have one of the most talented running back runs in the league. What do you think about Zach Charbonnet stepping into his third season? Do you think he'll have a bit more opportunity in year 3 without Kevin Walker being so dominant?
Well, it's a good problem to have. I think we've got three really good football players, good runners. They can all do all three things, play all three downs for us. I think Ken and Zach's styles complement one another. Kenny's shown the ability to run wide zone really well too, so it's going to be fun to see how the reps shake out throughout the year and the roles we have for him. But keeping Kennedy Polamalu as our running back coach was awesome for us, and he did such a great job with those guys this year. And I know Clint has a great vision for all three backs on our offense, and excited to work with them when they come back. Yeah.
Do you have a long-standing relationship with Dan? Does that go back to the 21 Orange Bowl, or how do you think?
Maybe was he there in 21? He was there in 21?
He won the title.
All right, well played, Dan. Maybe that hurt our relationship that game. Now, so Dan and I, we didn't cross paths when I was at Georgia. I think he got there after, but a lot of kind of interconnected relationships, and so we've known each other for quite a while. I think he's one of the best football coaches in the world, and his track record shows that. Just a ton of respect for how he runs his program. I'll be honored to go talk with him and talk ball. I did tell him, I was like, I don't know about the whole, auditorium. Just let's go talk ball for a couple hours, man, and try to get these coaches, give them some stuff that'll help them they can take back to their programs.
Mike, with Matt Abuike in Baltimore, Leonard Williams obviously last year, you had guys who were really good at creating interior pressure.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the importance of that in today's NFL, maybe for a quick game, and how that folds into this kind of loaded DT class overall?
Well, I think it speaks to the question earlier. I don't think you're just targeting, hey, we need an interior, we need this specific position, but how quickly they affect the quarterback, how they dictate protections, things like that. I think that'll take Leonard's role to the next level. How do I start now winning these schemes where now they're consistently accounting for me in pass rush, and it's our job as coaches to keep giving them advantageous opportunities to rush the quarterback. But I mean, the common thread there, those are heck of football players that are really tough and really smart and play the game the right way, and then it's our job as coaches to kind of make it come to life.
We're doing a class like this where it's not just talent, but so many guys who play so many different ways. How exciting is that?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think our schemes, what I'm proud about what we do is it's not like, hey, you have to have some cookie cutter height, weight, speed, length. There's certain times, there's certain criteria at each position, but we're able to fit people in roles and what they do well. Got a track record of doing that, so I think if there's the right opportunity, it'd be a great opportunity to get a good player.
Mike, I'm sorry if it's already been asked, but do you envision Gino being your starter week 1?
I do. I've gotten that question a lot, and I've answered it pretty consistently. I'm sorry. What's up, Jeff? Yeah, with quarterback, I mean, if there's an opportunity at any position, including quarterback, that's great for us and it's going to make us better. You got to consider it. You got to be able to make that decision. So.
Do you spend any time with the data team as opposed to the personnel team and maybe feed into their formula from your perspective about what should be weighted heavier or less?
Personnel-wise? Or?
Yeah, like how they're grading prospects.
Yeah, I think I'm getting used to our analytics folks on the personnel side and the things that the ideas they're bringing to the table. That's an area where John and I think that we can keep evolving as a team and as an organization. And I know Brian Ayers does a great job kind of heading up that whole department, and it's really important. It's really important. Again, it's another data point that you can use to your advantage. I don't know why you wouldn't, try to exploit it to the best of your ability, but that's been a fun process working with those guys.
You had the outside zone running scheme. What do you like about that? How do you think that'll help what you guys?
Well, the first thing is it lets the offensive line run off the ball. So that's just you got to believe the defensive lines nowadays it's just too hard to consistently move a guy that's just right on top of you, 60 plays a game. So you got to get these guys running, try to get the defensive line moving. Going against that scheme, definitely you feel it feels a certain way on defense, and that's what we're trying to create offensively. But to get the guys running off the ball initially, I think is really important, and then all the other schemes kind of complement off of that. The other thing is nowadays with the way that you can practice, by not being in pads all the time, and some of the gap schemes and the pulls get a little hairy. If you want to stay within the rules, throughout the summer and stuff like that. So
the NFL seems to maybe overthink maybe elite defensive end since the top kids in the draft and Oliver, Byron Murphy kind of just slipping.
They tend to overthink.
Yeah, they tend to fall a little bit in the draft sometimes. Do you know what the reason is behind that?
I don't know if I can label it like that. I think each one of those guys you're mentioning are just kind of independent observations and just not enough data points, I think, to make like a accurate assumption on how these guys are valued. But I don't think anybody's undervalued these guys by any stretch.
Back to outside zone, what traits, Mike, are you looking for in linemen that maybe you weren't looking for 12 months ago?
I think the common threads are there, but what's exclusive to that is you got to be able to move, you got to be able to change direction, think on your feet. These guys have a great track record of evaluating guys and developing them, and we have some people in house too that we're really. I've spoken to this at length, but the guys that we have on our roster, are good at this scheme. And I'm excited to develop these guys and see where they go.
Jalen Sundell, in particular, does it match him better maybe than the previous one?
Well, I thought Jalen played really good football for us, from being an undrafted free agent last year to competing for a starting position. So, he's right there. We're excited about his development, but Jalen's shown his ability to play all 5 spots, which is, the flexibility there is crucial for us, and we're excited about him.
Mike, something that stands out about your defense, I think this is true in Baltimore, you don't really have a thing. You don't have he does this. You talk about defensive players being versatile. How important is it for coaches to be versatile nowadays, where you're not just doing the 1 or 2 things, you really spread out?
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what, I heard that came out right before
versatility is a good thing, but you can't do everything, because it's impossible to do everything at a really high level. It's our job to make a system that's complementary, so there's only a handful of things of actual concepts that we're teaching, and that we're chasing the execution of those things. And that speaks to the flexibility within the position that we're going to ask of our players. So instead of having guys play 17 positions, it's just really hard for that guy to learn all the intricacies of what he's been able to do. So the coaches can now focus on more of a limited kind of set of skills that they're trying to develop at each position.
In terms of targets, DK Metcalf took a step down behind Jackson last year. What kind of role do you hope to see him in for 2025?
Well, from my understanding going into the Atlanta game, I think he was tops in the league in targets. I'm not sure where the numbers were, but it's that trend of focus around the offense that we're shooting for. And then to Jax's credit, and DK not being 100%, throughout the probably the second, third quarter of the season,
it's nothing specific to players.
It speaks to Jax's development, but we want to get the ball to DK. We want to make sure that he's a focal point of our offense for sure.
Mike, I apologize if you already asked this, but I saw a video that Pete Carroll talked to you guys on your flight here. What was that conversation like, and what were some of the things you talked about?
That's quite the flight, I've heard. I hate to be burst the bubble here, but I was not sitting next to John, so I actually didn't know that Pete was on our flight until I landed, and I saw Matt Capurro, and we were catching up. But to my knowledge, I guess him and John talked at length about all the things. So, but I didn't know he was on the flight, honestly. Sorry. Wish I had a cooler story.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks, guys.